Alexander Volkanovski was very emotional in his UFC 294 post-fight press conference following his first round TKO loss to Islam Makhachev. We're going to watch the clip. I've seen a lot of different people have some takes on this. I'm going to give my take on it as soon as we're done watching this.
A lot of people will say it's for the money and all that, but it was much more than that. Like, you know what I mean? It is hard. Like, it really is hard for athletes. Sorry. I never thought I'd struggle with it, but I mean, like, for some reason, when I wasn't fighting or in camp, I was just doing my head in, you know what I mean? I needed a fight, and then this opportunity come up, and, you know, I'll be honest, I wasn't training as much as I should have, but I thought I had to, you know, I had to do it. I had to take it. I thought it would be, you know, I'm telling myself it's meant to be. Obviously, I was struggling a little bit, not fighting, doing my head in. I don't know how. Everything's fine. I've got a beautiful family, but I don't know. You know, I think you just need to keep busy. So that's why, I just ask the UFC to, you know, just keep me busy. A lot of people was.
Yeah, so there you go. And we haven't really seen Volk ever get emotional like this at a post-fight press conference. Mind you, he's never been finished in the UFC, so it's perfectly understandable why this would be such a tough loss to take. And I've seen a lot of people say, you know, are you concerned about Volkanovski and him revealing this, that he felt like he had to take the fight? And kind of my understanding, and let me know in the comments what you guys think, but I kind of think what he meant was that, you know, he's a fighter. His identity is fighting, and he felt like if he didn't take this opportunity that he wouldn't really be living up to being sort of a fighter in that sense. Or maybe, like, you know, it's like one of those things like, you know, if you're good at something and you're not doing that something for a little bit, you kind of feel like you've lost your identity a little bit. It was kind of what I took from that. That was my, and again, not a psychologist or anything like that, but that was kind of what I took away, is that, you know, you want to be active as a fighter. And not only that, but like, I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on him to take this fight, right? Like, I mean, we're not talking about like a prelim fight or like a main card fight. Like, this was the main event of an Abu Dhabi card, one of the biggest cards for the UFC of the year. So I kind of feel like what Volk revealed there was him just saying, like, look, like, I kind of had to take this. And, you know, I hate to bring this up, but this is something I think that's very relevant as well, is, you know, one of his coaches, Eugene Behrman at City Kickboxing, made a whole mention in an interview when talking about Dracus du Plessis that, you know, like, you have to take fights if you're injured or not. Now, I'm not saying that Volk was injured, but I think if that's the attitude of that team, that, like, no matter what, you take a fight, maybe there was pressure on him from City Kickboxing to be like, I have to take this fight as well. So I understand where he's coming from. And by the way, anyone making fun of Volkanovski, I saw some people say, oh, he's cocky, he's getting what he deserves, or, you know, some people were taking that part where he says, I wasn't training as much as like him taking Islam lightly. No, I think he really was not training that much because he didn't think he would be fighting, and he had to take this fight because, again, the UFC was like, hey, we're offering you this fight, can you take it? And he even mentioned it there. It's not for the money, it's just the competitor in him. He felt like, look, I got to go do this, and he admitted it there. He said, look, like, a guy like Islam, you can't just fight on short notice. The results are not going to be very good there. So and he's 100% right. Like, no one should be fighting Islam on short notice. He's, you know, in my opinion, the best fighter in the world right now. I mentioned this in another video. I said this before as well, that I don't think this fight should have happened because this was such a big fight. I mean, it's so rare to have a champion be able to move up and fight another champion in another weight class. And in this situation, have as close of a fight as they had in the first one. This should have got the proper build up, not 10 days notice. Like, this should have been a fight that should have been months in advance, a lot of promos, a lot of build up, they could have even done like a press tour. Like, that's that type of fight they should have done. And again, the UFC was so desperate to get a big main event here for the Abu Dhabi crowd with Oliveira being out that they had to sort of make this fight. So that's just sort of another side note to this. But, you know, the title of this video is, should we be concerned with Alexander Volkanovski? You know, there's some reason to feel that way. He's 35 years old. Like, when you suffer a knockout loss like this, as you're an older fighter, it is a bit concerning. So I kind of understand that vantage point, but honestly, I'm not that concerned. He got knocked out. It happens. There was another fighter on this card, Kamaru Usman, who just a couple fights ago also got knocked out in way worse fashion against Leon Edwards in a fight that he was supposed to win. He was winning. He gets knocked out in the 5th round, and then he loses another fight. Now he's lost 3 in a row. Usman's actually older than Volkanovski. I don't think, I mean, I know there was some concern coming into this fight, but I think Usman showed in the Chimaev fight last night that he's got a lot left. Like, he's still a contender, is whatever division that may be, 185 or 170. I feel the same way with Volk. Like, I think I've already seen some people saying, like, this is it. You know, he's not going to be the same. We don't know. We don't know. Remember how dominant he's been at 145. Let's also not forget that Volkanovski put on a pretty damn good performance against Yair Rodriguez going into this fight. Like, there were a lot of people I saw saying, oh, this is the fight. This is the fight. Yair's going to knock him out. He's going to take him out. And it was the complete opposite. Volk finished Yair in that fight and dominated from bell to bell. So I am not as concerned as some people are with Volkanovski. I just think he's being honest here. He kind of, I mean, again, this is all hitting him at once. He has a kind of embarrassing loss here to, I mean, not kind of, it's, you know, anyone who steps in there, nothing's embarrassing, but it's like, you know, I'm almost positive that's not the way he thought the fight was going to play out, right? I think a lot of us felt like this was going to be a replay or close to similar what we saw in the first fight, where it was very close. I still think Volkanovski is the best 145-pound fighter in the world right now. And with this loss, there's no reason for him to move back up. So this is kind of my take on it. I'm not concerned. I think Volk fights Ilia Topuria at some point, and then I think that's it. I don't know any, and maybe Voliev, if he keeps moving up, he could be another contender, but like, he's really cleaned out that division. And like, I don't really want to see him fight. Like, I've heard some people suggest, oh, get him to fight Oliveira, get him to fight whoever. No, he's at his best in the weight class he's dominated in. He's 35. I would like to see him maybe have a couple more fights and then call it a day, which is fine. He's going to go down as one of the best featherweights of all time, if not the best. He's going to go down as one of the best fighters of all time. Like, again, a lot of people are going to harp on last night's loss. I just think it speaks to how good Islam is, you know? So, yeah, I'm not taking that post-fight interview as anything worrisome. If anything, I think to be the type of guy that Volk is, which is a champion, which he still is, he's the champion of 145. I think you got to be a little bit all over the place emotions wise. You got to be a little bit different. Like, people who are UFC champions, they're not like the rest of us. They're not like myself or anyone else. Like, you have to be a bit crazy to do this sport and compete at a high level and deal with all the pressure. And I think that was just sort of some of that pouring out in the post-fight interview. So I got a lot of respect for Volk. I got a lot of respect for Volk for taking this fight on short notice. That's not to take anything away from Islam. I think Islam had an amazing performance, and he really showed that he is the best in the world right now. But again, I don't look at this as any sort of red flag or something we should be concerned with Alexander Volkanovski going forward in his career, because again, he's still, I mean, July was not that long ago, and he absolutely destroyed Yair Rodriguez, who's a top contender. I'm not worried about him going forward. And I know there's going to be people saying, oh, this is a great chance now for Max or Ilia Topuria or one of these fighters to take advantage. First off, I don't think he fights Max again. I don't think he should have to. He's beaten him 3 times. Ilia Topuria is really the only contender right now that he should fight, and I think he beats him. I think even after last night's loss, I still think Volkanovski beats Ilia Topuria, and that's nothing against how good Topuria is. I just think Volk is so good at 145, and you could see last night that Islam's the bigger, stronger guy in that matchup. Volk was trying to be ambitious and go for glory, and you got to give respect to that. How many champions have not moved up a weight class in their entire career and have just stayed in the weight class, and people still call them amazing? But you got to give props to guys like Volk that are willing to move up and test themselves and try and just go from not only being the best in their weight class, but one of the greatest of all time, period, in the UFC. You got to have respect for that. So yeah, I am not concerned whatsoever with Alexander Volkanovski. I don't think his career is going to be that much longer, but I think I would have felt that way even if he would have won this fight, because he's 35. This is not a sport where you're going to be fighting into your 40s. There's very few fighters who end up doing that. So I don't know what you guys think in the comment section below. Were you concerned watching that post-fight presser last night? What do you think the future holds for Alex Volkanovski? Let me know. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram @LynchOnSports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.